Hi guys, welcome back to English Hangouts. A quick one. I want us to examine some commonly misrepresented mass noun in English by the semiotic experts. Nouns are building blocks in English. The building blocks of English. Therefore, I want us to look at some commonly misrepresented mass nouns in English. Today, we have two objectives to achieve. The first objective is to look at what mass noun is, as well as what are some errors that can be associated with this noun among second language users. And the second part is we want to examine some sentences by identifying these errors in those expressions. Are we good to go? Thank you. Mass nouns are nouns denoting something that is uncountable. It can be substance, it can be quality. Mass noun can also be called uncount noun. Uncount noun. There are some also who refer to it as uncountable noun. Either you refer to it as mass noun, or you refer to it as uncount noun, or you refer to it as uncountable noun. We are both saying the same thing. The first thing is that mass noun, let's look at some examples of mass noun. We can have jewelry. We have accommodation. We have accommodation. We have jewelry. We have milk. You cannot count this. The first thing I want us to highlight is that mass noun cannot take indefinite article. You cannot use an and a with mass noun. For example, you cannot have an accommodation. It is erroneous to have an accommodation. The rules that govern mass noun is that it must not be used with indefinite article, either a or what, an. Number two, mass noun should not be pluralized. Mass noun should not be pluralized. We cannot have words like jewelries. No. This is erroneous in nature. We cannot have accommodations. Although in American English we can have accommodation, but as far as British English is concerned, accommodation is not appropriate. A place where a particular person live or dwell is an accommodation, not accommodations. You cannot have a 3-week training. A 3-week training. The third one is that as far as cardinal number is concerned, cardinal number are 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. They must not be used with an article. You cannot have a 3-week training. That is ungrammatical. It is an erroneous use of mass noun. You can have 3 weeks training, not a 3-week training. 3 here is a cardinal number. Training here is a mass noun. Are we good to go? Beautiful. So by looking at mass noun, I was able to establish that mass noun should not be used with plural inflection. S, IES, ES. Plural noun should not be used with plural inflections. That is the first thing we established. Number two, we also established that plural noun do not take cardinal number. Plural noun do not take cardinal number. Number three, the use of indefinite article. The use of indefinite article, a and an, is also forbidden. These are three things you should be mindful of if you are using mass noun to construct a sentence, to express yourself, as noun generally is the building block of word class. Under this, I mentioned the use of the plural inflection S for accommodations. Under this also, I was able to highlight another word, which is pluralizing the word jewelries. Here also I mentioned the use of a 3-month training, and here also we have an equipment. This is wrong. Or a equipment, no. Or we have an equipment. So all of these are an erroneous usage of applying a and an to mass noun. That is the first thing we established as far as commonly misrepresented mass nouns are concerned. However, if you are to use mass noun and you intend to use whether if you intend to use mass noun in a situation where you intend to use a mass noun and you wanted to use whether a cardinal number with it, whether plural inflection with it, whether indefinite article with it, in English grammar you can introduce what we call partitives. Partitives are units of measurement. Partitives are units of measurement where you can have a piece of, a lot of, or you have lots of, or you have piece of. All of these are example of partitives. They are units of measurements. You can have, for example, you can have an expression of this form: sofa is a piece of furniture. You cannot, this is grammatical, this is the standard. You cannot have sofa is a furniture, because furniture here is a mass noun, and we said earlier that mass noun should not attract indefinite article. If you are to use an article with mass noun, therefore you must introduce partitives. You must introduce partitives. this is an instance where you can use article. This is the only instances where you can use partitives. This is the only instances where you can use articles with partitives. The introduction of what? A piece of, a lot of. In this instance, is a furniture, is a non-standard variant. Sofa is a piece of furniture, becomes the standard variant. And our final objective for today is we want to look at 5 expressions as well as their standard variants. In all of these expressions, the first thing we'll do with those expressions is that we will identify the errors in those expressions as well as the rewritten form, which is the standard form. 1. Accommodation. Accommodation. If you look at this first expression, we need an accommodation on Victoria Island. Sentence 1. Sentence B, we need some accommodation on Victoria Island. So just like I said earlier, that in all of the expression we will analyze for today's episode, the first thing is to identify the error in that particular expression. For example, we need an accommodation on Victoria Island. I established earlier that as far as mass noun is concerned, it is forbidden, it is grammatically incoherent to have an article with it. This particular ane makes this expression a non-standard expression. We need some accommodation on Victoria Island becomes the standard variant. An accommodation is a place you live, you work, or you stay. Therefore, it should be accommodation, not an accommodation. This is the first thing we'll establish in this video. Number 2 is potentials. This word is potential. There is nothing like potentials. There is nothing like potentials. An average second language users add SA, and we established earlier potential is a typical example of a mass noun. It is a typical example of what? A mass noun. Therefore, mass noun, in mass noun, you are not expected to, a mass noun is not expected to attract a plural inflection S. Look at this expression. 1. Nigeria as a enormous potentials. B. Nigeria as enormous potentials. Example 3. Many Nigerian youth have enormous potentials. If you look at this first expression, Nigeria as enormous potentials, article A here is forbidden. It is wrong, and therefore the S here is forbidden. Nigeria has enormous potentials. This is grammatical. This is the non-standard variant. Also, many Nigerian youth have enormous potential. This is also a non-standard variant. Dear viewers, you should be mindful of how you use potential. It is potential, not potentials. If a particular person has a number of gifts, it is potential, not potentials. Are we good to go? Beautiful. Number 3 is the use of among Nigerian users, these two words on the whiteboard, slang and jargon. Slang. Dear viewers, you should be mindful of these two words. Slang and jargon are words that are erroneously used by Nigerian users. The first thing I will establish is that slang, the appropriate spelling is slang, not slangs. There is nothing like slangs in English lexicon. If you consult a dictionary, you won't find anything like what? Slangs. Secondly, you can't have words like jargons. These two items should not be pluralized. They are mass noun. They cannot be counted. That is on one hand. On the other hand, the word jargon here is not nonsensical. It's not what? Nonsensical as being acclaimed by Nigerian users. If a word is being referred to as jargon, jargon does not mean rubbish or nonsense. I will establish that. The word slang here is a very informal language. It is spoken, not written. There are instances where slang can be written, but slang generally are spoken, and slang are informal way of expressing yourself, an informal spoken form. Am I communicating? Jargon, on the other hand, are technical words. Jargon are many a time written. Slang are spoken. So slangs is wrong. Jargons is wrong. Slang is a very informal way of speaking, a spoken language. Jargon is a form of written English. Jargon is written, not spoken. Slang many a time is spoken, not written. Are you good to go? That is on one hand. On the other hand, if you have expression of this form, slang, jargon, okay, we can have adjournment. Adjournment is a legal jargon. Look at this expression very well. A, B, adjournment is a legal jargon. I said earlier that jargon are technical words that can be associated with an area of specialization. For example, among the lawyers, there are technical terms that can be associated with that particular field. Among the teachers, there are technical words that can be associated with them. Among the engineering scholars, there are technical words that can be associated with that particular field. That is the jargon of that field. For example, in this expression on the whiteboard, we have adjournment is a legal jargon. We established earlier that indefinite article should not be used with mass noun. Therefore, this expression here is a non-standard variant. Adjournment is legal jargon. This is the standard form. Here there is an article. Here we have no article. So indefinite article should not be associated with mass noun. I hope you get this straight. Look at this expression also. Spare me your engineering jargons. B. Spare me your engineering jargon. So in this second expression also, the use of jargons is one of the commonly misrepresented mass noun in this expression. Spare me your engineering jargons. We established that jargons cannot be found in English lexicon. Whether it is used in the engineering area of specialization or medical area of specialization, jargon should not attract plural inflection. Spare me your engineering jargon. Spare me your engineering jargon is the standard form, not spare me your engineering jargons. So I will repeat this explanation. Slang is a very formal form of communication. It is written many a time. Jargon are technical words or specialized terminology that can be associated with a particular field or a particular area of specialization, and they should not, these two items here should not attract plural inflection, the S. Are we good to go? So that is that on the use of slang as well as the use of jargon. So by now you should be able to differentiate between slang and jargon. Also, you should know that jargon is not nonsensical as being referred to by many Nigerians user of English language. So it is not nonsensical, it is a technical words that can be associated with a particular field. Moving on, which is the fourth. I said earlier that we'll look at just 5 mass noun in context. So we've established the first 3. Now we're moving to the fourth expression, is jewelry. The use of jewelry. You can have words like this. Janet Jackson has 3 jewelries. Janet Jackson has 3 jewelry. So I said earlier that mass noun should not be pluralized. Should not be what? Pluralized. You cannot add the plural inflection to mass noun. Therefore, this becomes an this becomes a non-grammatical expression, not a ungrammatical expression. Janet Jackson has 3 jewelry. Not Janet Jackson has 3 jewelries. Under this category also, the same thing we have is cutlery. Cutlery. There's nothing like cutleries. We cannot pluralize this mass noun. This is the standard usage. It is cutlery, not cutleries. The same thing applies to stationery. stationery. Not these. Mind you, also you cannot add ies to this. It is stationary without any form of plural inflection. And finally for today, training is another example of a mass noun. Let's look at training in context. A 3 months training will be held next week. B, 3 months training will be held next week. So in this expression, training here is an example of what? Mass noun. A 3 months training will be held next week. The first error that we have in this expression is the use of what? A. Mind you, we said earlier that indefinite article should be forbidden in mass noun, except if we introduce partitives, a piece of so 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 and so. And secondly, cardinal numbers should not be used with, so a cardinal number cannot be used with this article. A 3 months training, it is a non-standard variant. Therefore, this particular article will be omitted if this sentence is to become a grammatical one, a standard usage, as well as the most recognized expression in modern grammar, in modern English. So we can have 3 months training will be held next week. This becomes the standard variant and not this, because here we have a 3 months. You cannot have a 3 months. It should be 3 months training, not a 3 months training. So we've been able to establish, as far as today's episode is concerned, that mass nouns are important. Nouns generally are important word class in English, and if you are to express yourself efficiently, you need to master nouns generally. If you are to master nouns generally, mass noun as a type of noun should be adequately deployed in expressions. We established that mass nouns are nouns that denote something that cannot be counted, either substance or quality. It can also be referred to as uncountable noun. It can also be referred to as uncount noun. Either you call it uncount noun or you refers to it as uncountable noun. We are both on the same page. Also, we highlighted 3 key things in the course of our explanation that plural markers should not be used with mass noun. One. Number two, we also established that cardinal number are forbidden in mass noun. And lastly, we established also that plural inflections, cardinal number, and the use of indefinite article a and an should not be used with mass nouns. And also we looked at 5 expressions as well as the standard, and as well we looked at 5 expressions. The 5 expressions are used in context, and in the context also we try to identify some commonly misrepresented errors that are associated with those expressions. So in conclusion, if you find it very difficult to determine the word class of a particular word, the best thing to do is to make dictionary your companion. In your dictionary, you get to see the word class of that particular word and how such words can be deployed in constructing a credible, a grammatical, and a standard expression. Do not forget to like, subscribe, as well as comment on the platform. This is an avenue, or these are things you can do in order to grow this community. Do have a lovely day ahead till we meet again. Thank you and God bless.